The story begins with Dazai and his lover, Sachan, attempting a double suicide, but he instead gets isekai'd and meets a girl named Annette. However, Dazai isn't interested in saving the world as he wishes to end his life. Annette tries to convince him to embrace his new life, explaining that only those unhappy in their previous lives are transported here. Unimpressed, he claims the truck interrupted his happiest moment. Annette thinks his new stats will motivate him, but she is shocked as he has very low stats. Despite her warnings, Dazai sets off to find a place to die, and along the way, he encounters Tama, who is trapped by a monster tree. He manages to save her after the tree absorbs poison from Dazai. Tama invites him to her home in gratitude, but he's more interested in reuniting with Sachin to resume their suicide pact. Later, Annette joins him because she's interested in his unique personality, and the group heads to town. The group then meets King Thomas and his daughter, Charlotte. The king hopes Dazai and his companions will help his daughter choose her life partner, but Dazai dismisses the importance of marriage and says Thomas is unfit as king. Charlotte feels a connection with Dazai, and she declares her desire to commit suicide with Dazai rather than marry one of her suitors. This sparks a conflict, revealing Gomez, one of her suitors, as a monster loyal to the Dark Lord. Annette's protective spell, paired with Tama's attack, defeats Gomez. Charlotte ultimately decides to live on her terms, and Dazai admires women who stand independently, while Tama and Annette worry about Charlotte's future. The journey continues, and Annette leads Dazai and Tama to Sviton Temple, hoping to rest and prepare for the Dark Lord's threat. Tama teases Annette's growing attachment to Dazai, who remains focused on finding Sachin. They encounter a powerful girl, Waldelia, who attacks them, claiming her hatred for all other worlders. She leaves after Dazai, despite her dark magic, expresses empathy for her pain. The group reaches the temple, where the priestess Isha heals Dazai. Isha warns Annette that other worlders are rarely noble in their intentions, doubting Dazai's value as a hero. But Annette remains firm in her belief in him, leaving Isha curious about Dazai's abilities, especially since the Dark Lord is already defeated before his arrival. In town, an arrogant otherworlder named Suzuki arrives, using his power to enslave Annette and Tama. He has the intention to rule the world, setting his beasts on a destructive rampage. Dazai, resistant to Suzuki's influence, faces him, with Isha's reluctant help, hoping to rescue Annette. Dazai's poison-based resilience proves effective, ultimately freeing Annette when she fights the spell. Dazai intends on capturing Suzuki's life story for a novel, and we see a flashback of Suzuki's tragic past, explaining his fall into greed and ruthlessness. Dazai uses his newfound skill to send Suzuki back to his original world, realizing that this may be his true role. As Isha and Annette help Dazai prepare for the journey ahead, she wonders if he is destined to challenge otherworlders who misuse their powers. In a distant town, religious leaders meet to discuss the rising threat of rebellious otherworlders who have seized control of the Dark Lord's territory after defeating him. They fear that these new threats may surpass even the Dark Lord's power. Isha introduces Dazai's unique ability to return otherworlders to their original worlds, which prompts the Pope to view Dazai as a potential savior. Meanwhile, Dazai and his group reach a new town where they're tricked by a boy named Nier, who promises to introduce them to a hero. When Nier is later captured by hostile otherworlders, Dazai confronts them, using his peculiar strength to frighten them off. Nier is ashamed of his earlier behavior and decides to join Dazai's party, hoping to find true heroes while escaping his own past. However, the group's arrival at Tama's home ends unexpectedly as they are shockingly imprisoned by the guards. They are brought before King Siberian, who accuses them of kidnapping the nation's princess, revealed to be Tama, whose real name is Matilda. Tama convinces her father to release her friends on the condition that she gives up her life as an adventurer. That night, the group meets Tama's former lady-in-waiting, Fauna, who explains that after Tama's mother and brother died in a storm, Tama had taken up adventuring to support her father, but he didn't like this. Later, Tama sees the fallen angel of gluttony, Kaibara, launch an attack on the castle. Kaibara, with his power to summon a giant mouth, devours anything in his path and gains the abilities of whatever he consumes. King Siberian attempts to fight him but loses an arm protecting Tama. Her father's assistant takes her away to safety, but Kaibara declares he's taken control of the kingdom and plans to consume all of the demi-humans. The team heads to confront him, as Dazai convinces the guards to let them in by claiming he wants to be eaten. Meanwhile, Tama battles Kaibara, only to be struck by the powers he got from King Siberian through his gluttony ability. At the same time, Dazai and the others break into the queen's old quarters to steal her diary. As Kaibara prepares to consume Tama, Dazai intervenes. Annette urges Dazai to use his powers, but he declines, dismissing Kaibara's story as uninspiring. Instead, he finds Tama's story compelling and gives her mother's diary to read, activating his storyteller ability. This awakens Tama's latent divine beast powers, which she had suppressed to please her father. Using her newfound abilities, Tama defeats Kaibara, who then rises again as a monster due to consuming the Dark King's flesh. At that moment, Waldelia arrives, swiftly killing Kaibara and getting revenge for her father. She then departs upon noticing Dazai is still alive. The following morning, Annette, Dazai, and Nier prepare to leave, whereas Tama decides to stay behind. However, with her father's encouragement, Tama rejoins the group, and they continue their journey. Dazai and his group arrive at the World Tree and the town of Tonariko, only to discover it's been overtaken by other worlders and turned into a gambling hub. They speak to the mayor, who explains the whole situation that the World Tree is dying, and he pleads with them to drive out the corrupt otherworlders. A hero named Yamada joins them in their mission. However, Dazai is running low on sleeping pills, and he wanders off and stumbles upon a cave where locals smoke World Tree leaves. A dancer named Esha invites him to her bar, and the two quickly become friends. Meanwhile, Yamada destroys the casino and swiftly overcomes the otherworlders. As the villagers celebrate, their cheers soon turn into accusations against Eshe, whom they claim willingly aided the otherworlders. Dazai defends her, revealing that she had actually used her position to keep the otherworlders away from them, thus trying to protect the villagers. Unfortunately, only Yamada believes him, and Esha is banished from town. Dazai and the others decide to leave as well. Yamada learns from the mayor that he intends to continue the otherworlders' operations, and even tries to hire Yamada as a bodyguard. Horrified, Yamada rejects the offer. As the group departs, they witness the World Tree wither and die. Esha, now revealed as the spirit of the World Tree, appears to thank Dazai for his compassion by granting him an endless supply of his sleeping pills. In the desert, Annette and Tama struggle with the heat, but Dazai is pleased at the possibility it might be fatal. Nier, who grew up in the desert, warns them to travel only by day, but unfortunately, they are ambushed by bandits led by Toru, who demand payment to enter Huntsman territory. Despite Nier's fear, he attempts to defend Dazai. But Toru's scorpion, injected with poison, attacks Dazai, but his body is filled with poison, and it destroys the creature, forcing the bandits to retreat. Later, Nier feels ashamed for not helping more, but Dazai reassures him that courage grows with experience. They rest at Nier's old orphanage, where the caretaker, Kathy, feeds them, though Dazai craves synthetic seasoning. That night, Nier discovers Saito, a mysterious man who donates food to the orphanage. We learn about Saito's background as a lonely otherworlder, and Nier realizes Saito's secret that he transforms into a deadly wolf. When the bandits return, Saito goes on a rampage, nearly killing Toru, until Nier's courage stops him. Reflecting on his past cowardice, Saito confides that he was transported to this world after he was unable to help a kind kid from bullies because he couldn't walk. Dazai then offers to return Saitu to his world because of his generosity toward the orphans. The children thank Saitu as he departs, and he once again meets his old friends, leaving him in tears. The dwarven kingdom of Geld faces off against an army of monsters, and Wolf uses his wind magic to disperse enemy forces, but he accidentally catches Dazai in his attack. That night, Wolf praises the bravery of the dwarves he fought alongside, but he remains skeptical of Dazai's abilities. Despite Isha's assurances of Dazai's powers, Wolf, who sees no magic as a match for his own, warns Dazai to stay out of the conflict with the fallen angels. As the fallen angel of misery prepares for battle, Wolf's familiar catches the attention of Melos, Dazai's creature. Yuriko, a fallen angel now fighting for the enemy, comes as a big surprise for Wolf. The next day, the fallen army attacks with a legendary dragon, Jade. Yuriko, the fallen angel of greed, controls the beast and captures Wolf, which comes as a big blow as they are heavily dependent on Wolf. As Wolf is taken, Isha and the others prepare a rescue mission, while Dazai visits the place where he saw Wolf going earlier, and he is shocked to find an elderly woman there. Determined to help Wolf, Dazai sets off, accompanied by this woman, to confront Yuriko and save his friend. The team faces Yuriko at the temple. She calls on skeleton warriors to fight them, and when one gets defeated, she keeps bringing it back. Isha asks why Yuriko hates Wolf, so Yuriko explains that she was once his student and she loved spending time with him. But then her sister, Hikari, was summoned, and Wolf only paid attention to her. This stirred up Yuriko's power of greed, and she ended up killing Hikari. Just as Yuriko is about to defeat the team, Dazai crashes there with his new mobile coffin. He brings in an old woman who is actually Hikari, aged rapidly by the effects of greed. Dazai gets the sisters to share their stories. Hikari had been a sick child, and Yuriko was always responsible for caring for her instead of having her own life. One day, Yuriko tried to live freely, but unfortunately, Hikari almost died, and their father blamed Yuriko. That night, Yuriko was summoned, and soon after, Hikari followed because she didn't want to live without her sister. Wolf stopped training Yuriko because Hikari wanted to take all the responsibility solely on her, hoping Yuriko could live the life she had missed. Hearing their stories triggers Dazai's ability, which undoes the damage caused by greed and sends Yuriko and Hikari back to Earth. Hikari wakes up to Yuriko opening her window, and they remember their time in the other world, as if it were just a dream. After their victory, the team is confronted by the fallen angel of misery. They can't harm him, but he leaves after Nier blocks his sword, leaving a chip. That night, Dazai meets Sashin in the castle halls. Happy to see her, he tries to complete their old pact to die together, but she refuses, saying he has changed and has a new spark in his eyes. She returns to the dark castle, still loving him, but seeing his new potential. Feeling rejected, Dazai spirals into chaos and takes a wild ride in his mobile coffin, hoping to meet his end. He speeds out of town with the team chasing after him. They eventually find him in a mysterious cave in the town of Held. Dazai crashes through monsters until his vehicle breaks down. Inside the cave, he finds a portal to the fairy world, where he meets the Fairy Queen and her followers. The Fairy Queen, impressed that he is different from other heroes, gives him a special whistle and urges him to keep living. She then sends him back, where he crashes into the team and a local statue. Using the whistle, he calls the fairy to repair the statue. As the team continues their journey, the Pope, fallen angels, and Waldelia wonder about Dazai's true purpose.